Trapped just 200 meters from the enemy, a sniper team must survive inside a 122-degree Fahrenheit biological oven for 72 hours without moving a single inch. How do they endure this silent hell when both their million-dollar gear and their own bodies violently begin to shut down? Let's dive into the brutal, agonizing reality of modern military snipers. Right now, exactly 25,000 feet above a hostile mountainous valley, a $32 million MQ-9 Reaper drone is flying blind. Its advanced AN/DAS, one multispectral targeting system, has just been neutralized by a Russian-made Krasuka-4 electronic warfare complex capable of jamming signals from 300 kilometers away. Millions of dollars in cutting-edge aerospace engineering are instantly reduced to a useless 4,900-pound piece of fiberglass. Yet exactly 200 meters from a heavily armed enemy patrol buried deep under a rotting log, the real eyes of the modern battlefield are still watching. Two human beings. Forget everything Hollywood has ever taught you about military snipers. Blockbuster movies consistently sell you a fabricated lie. They show a lone wolf on a rooftop taking a dramatic 1,000-yard headshot with a 30-pound Barrett M82, then casually walking away. The ground reality is different. Army snipers operate in strictly synchronized 2-man or 3-man teams. One shooter, one spotter, but pulling that trigger is the absolute last resort. According to strict doctrine at the U.S. Army Sniper School at Fort Moore, their primary tactical objective is deep reconnaissance. They act as invisible human sensors. They slip unnoticed behind enemy lines to gather critical intelligence, establish a concealed static hide, and feed precise 10-digit grid coordinates back to command. Sometimes they hold a single cramped position for 96 hours straight without ever disengaging their primary rifle safety switch. Firing the shot is easy. Surviving the agonizing wait is the true psychological nightmare. What happens when the digital battlefield collapses around them? You can give a sniper team the finest equipment on earth. They carry the heavy $40,000 AN/PR C117 G wideband tactical radio on their backs. It is a 12-pound marvel of encrypted communication, but in a sub-zero environment, unforgiving physics takes over. The standard lithium-ion B2590 batteries suffer severe voltage drops when ambient temperatures plummet to minus 15 degrees Celsius. Battery life rapidly crashes, from an expected 24 hours down to less than 4. Furthermore, dense jungle canopy or active enemy signal jamming can sever their satellite uplink completely. If that radio goes dead, no air support is coming. No one. 155mm artillery strike can be called. The most lethal weapon system in the military suddenly becomes dependent on a shivering human holding a waterproof map and a Landsat compass. What would you do if a high-value target walked right into your crosshairs? But the strict command was absolute radio silence and zero engagement. This is where the true test begins. The technology has failed. It is just flesh, blood, and sheer willpower. The spotter peers through a Leupold Mark IV tactical spotting scope, his eyes burning from microscopic dust. He has not blinked in 3 minutes. Suddenly, the ground vibrates. A heavy combat boot crushes a dried pine branch exactly 14 inches from his face. The enemy is right there. He can smell the unwashed uniform and the gun oil of the hostile soldier. A sudden spike in cortisol hits his bloodstream. His heart rate wants to spike to 140 beats per minute, but he forces it down to 60 through sheer tactical breathing. One flinch, one sharp intake of breath, and they are both dead. These men are the ultimate insurance policy when multi-million-dollar networks fail. They are the silent guardians who sacrifice their own bodies to protect the strike force. We dissect the brutal, unsung realities of modern warfare like this every single week. If you respect the iron discipline of these unseen heroes, hit that like button and subscribe. But when communications go dark, how do they survive in a biological prison that is silently draining their very life force? Enter the Ghillie suit. It is a merciless biological prison handwoven from thousands of jute threads. Through the glamorous lens of action movies, it looks like a masterpiece of military stealth. It brilliantly shatters the recognizable human silhouette, but from the inside, it operates as an inescapable mobile oven. When ambient outdoor temperature hits 95 degrees Fahrenheit, ruthless thermodynamics takes over. The space beneath that heavy 1000D Cordura fabric instantly transforms into a suffocating heat trap. The internal temperature effortlessly blasts past 122 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees Celsius in under 20 minutes. Have you ever worn a thick, waterlogged winter jacket while lying face down in a scorching desert at high noon, unable to move a single millimeter? The net weight of a fully operational ghillie suit, saturated with a soldier's sweat and humid morning dew, easily exceeds 18 pounds. That crushing weight permanently compresses the cervical spine. At an internal radiant heat of 122 degrees, the human body literally consumes itself. A sniper loses 1.5 liters of water every hour through hyperactive sweat glands. Millions of blood capillaries beneath the skin violently expand, desperately trying to vent core heat, but the dense jute fibers completely lock out convective airflow. The operators are boiled alive, drowning in the relentless evaporation of their own moisture, pushing back into their flesh. It is exactly at this brutal blind spot where the merciless betrayal of million-dollar technology begins. The more electronically advanced the gear is, the more fragile it becomes against raw human physiology. Look closely at the shooter. He presses his eye against a Ford $200 Schmidt & Bender PM 25 to 25 times 56 telescopic sight. It is a peerless marvel of German optical engineering. However, his core body temperature is raging at 103 degrees. That intense thermal radiation, combining with the 90% humidity of his tactical breathing, instantly generates a deadly microclimate. Even though the internal tube is purged with nitrogen gas, the exterior surface of the ocular lens quickly glazes over with biological moisture. The sight picture is erased. You cannot simply reach up and wipe it away. A 6-inch swipe of the hand across the glass must take 25 agonizing minutes to execute, moving millimeter by millimeter to evade enemy sensors overhead. They are rendered entirely blind by their own biological body warmth. Right beside the rifle barrel, a Kestrel 5700 Elite Weather Meter rests on the damp soil. This $899 computer calculates bullet trajectory and wind deflection. It boasts a prestigious IP67 waterproof rating, yet engineers never anticipate the corrosive devastation of soaking delicate sensors in saline human sweat for 48 continuous hours. A single drop of hypersalty sweat drips from the spotter's forehead, seeping through microscopic gaps in the casing. The internal circuitry instantly shorts out. The crucial wind reading violently scrambles into error codes, neutralizing the firing solution. The smartest precision weapon system gets defeated by physiological saltwater. This camouflage suit also demands a brutal maintenance cycle. Natural vegetation tied into the netting wilts rapidly, losing chlorophyll and turning a dead brown after just 4 hours. A patch of dry grass in a green valley is an immediate death sentence under a FLIR camera to survive. Snipers dig raw fingers into the dirt at 1 inch per minute, silently uprooting fresh grass and painstakingly weaving it into their green camouflage nets. But the absolute peak of physical agony strikes when core temperature reaches critical mass. Exertional heat stroke begins tearing through the central nervous system. Blood proteins aggressively denature. The massive loss of electrolytes throws calcium ions in the muscle fibers into severe biochemical chaos. Suddenly, the gastrocnemius muscle in the calf fiercely cramps. A violently agonizing spasm rips through the tissue. Under normal conditions, you would scream and grab your leg. But here, a single involuntary twitch that shakes a camouflage branch by 5 millimeters will immediately call down a devastating barrage of 82 millimeter mortar fire. The scout must bite down hard on the roof of his mouth until it bleeds, silently enduring the brutal, flesh-tearing pain. He must brutally force his screaming nervous system into absolute submission. Using rigid tactical breathing, he chains his erratic heart rate down from a panicked 130 beats per minute to a dead calm 60 beats per minute, right through the terrifying convulsions. Temperatures boil the blood, but the absolute worst is when their own biological self begins to turn against them. What do you do when your stomach violently churns and the countdown clock has only just struck hour 12? To survive the next 60 hours, the human machine must execute a total biological freeze. Standard human bodily functions in a tactical hide are an immediate death sentence. The logistical war actually begins exactly 48 hours before the insertion flight. Snipers aggressively switch to a strict, low-residue diet. They consume pure concentrated proteins and absolutely zero dietary fiber. The physiological objective is brutal, but necessary, temporarily shut down the lower digestive tract to halt the production of solid waste. When you are pinned down 200 meters from a heavily armed enemy camp, casually standing up and walking to a designated latrine trench is simply not a viable option. But eventually, raw human biology always violently wins the battle. When the body demands release, it becomes a high-stakes biochemical operation. For liquid waste operators rely on wide-mouth 32-ounce Nalgene bottles. They must carefully roll onto their sides at an agonizingly slow pace of 1 inch per minute to avoid snapping a single dry twig. For everything else standard, MRE bags are repurposed. But human waste emits a massive biological signature. A highly trained patrolling Belgian Malinois military working dog possesses 225 million olfactory receptors. It can detect the distinct chemical markers of human cortisol and digesting proteins from over a mile away. To counter this, snipers utilize extreme olfactory camouflage. Every single gram of waste is carefully sealed inside double-layered, heavy-duty Ziploc bags, generously mixed with specialized chemical neutralizing powders to instantly kill the ammonia scent. They must carry their own toxic waste in their backpacks for days. Fueling the body under these extreme conditions is a separate form of torture. Standard military meals. Ready to eat, or MREs, are a severe tactical liability. Activating a flameless ration heater triggers a violent chemical reaction, with magnesium and water releasing a highly distinct metallic vapor cloud that hangs heavily in the cold air. Consequently, every single calorie is consumed freezing cold. Have you ever tried to silently eat a frozen brick of compressed, high-altitude rations while enemies patrol a few yards away? The physical act of chewing becomes a terrifying risk. Masticating a rock-hard 3,000-calorie dense energy bar creates massive acoustic vibrations. Those sharp crunching sounds conduct directly through the sniper's jawbones and skull. In the dead silence of a 2 a.m. mountain valley, the internal crunch of human teeth can easily be picked up by an enemy's parabolic listening device 50 meters away. You do not chew. You hold the freezing mass in your mouth until your own saliva painstakingly dissolves it. However, the ultimate psychological disintegration comes from sleep deprivation. True rest is completely impossible. The two-man team operates on grueling 20-minute rotations of micro-sleep. You lie completely flat on your stomach, your camouflage face pressed deep into the freezing dirt, while your partner violently scans the 120-degree sector through the optics. But after 48 hours of zero rapid eye movement sleep, the human brain physically rebels. The prefrontal cortex responsible for logical reasoning begins to rapidly misfire. This neurological collapse is violently amplified by their own tactical gear. Both operators wear advanced Peltor Comtac 6 electronic communication headsets. These $1,200 devices actively compress hazardous gunshot noise, while electronically amplifying ambient environmental sounds by up to 18 decibels. In a state of extreme sleep deprivation, this becomes a terrifying psychological weapon against the wearer. The exhausted brain begins generating severe auditory hallucinations. The otherwise harmless rustling of a single dry oak leaf blowing at exactly 10 miles per hour is suddenly digitally processed and violently misinterpreted by the dying brain as the sharp metallic clack of an enemy AK-47 bolt racking right behind their heads. The exhausted spotter suddenly jolts awake from a 15-minute micro-sleep, his pupils dilating massively. A massive, catastrophic surge of pure synthetic adrenaline violently hits his central nervous system. His brain screams that an enemy executioner is standing directly over him, aiming for a headshot. The primitive instinct to violently jerk his head around, grab his Glock 19 sidearm and open fire is overwhelming, but doing so would instantly compromise their carefully crafted camouflage and definitively doom the mission. He must violently fight his own basic survival instinct. He brutally forces his paralyzed muscles to remain perfectly still, staring blankly into the cold dirt, slowly realizing that the looming enemy was only a terrifying phantom born from a dying brain. The physical body has hit absolute rock bottom, and the tactical equipment is slowly dying. What is the single thing preventing them from pulling the trigger on themselves or screaming out in surrender right now? It is the absolute mastery over the human core. When the biological machine threatens to critically fail, elite snipers deploy their ultimate weapon, an unbreakable psychological firewall. Right now, a 5-pound enemy quadcopter, equipped with a highly classified $15,000 FLIR boson thermal imaging camera, is hovering exactly 400 feet directly above their tactical hide. It is aggressively scanning the dense forest floor, precisely calibrated to instantly detect any heat signature, emitting exactly 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit against the cold 40-degree ambient background. If it catches even a tiny pixelated fraction of human body heat, a GPS-guided 120mm mortar barrage will obliterate their exact grid coordinates in less than 45 seconds. To erase their biometric signature from the digital radar, the sniper team must weaponize the freezing environment against their own bodies. They deliberately drag their exhausted frames deep into a freezing mud trench. They wrap themselves tightly in a crinkling, ultra-thin mylar thermal space blanket, carefully concealed beneath their ghillie netting. The reflective mylar traps the infrared radiation, bouncing the thermal energy back toward the skin, successfully shielding it from the drone's merciless airborne sensors. But the cold, wet mud rapidly drains their core body temperature through aggressive thermal conduction. The snipers willingly accept the terrifying physiological onset of stage 1 hypothermia. Their blood painfully retreats from their extremities to protect vital organs. Their fingertips turn a dead, ghostly pale. Uncontrollable shivering violently racks their skeletal muscles as their core temperature drops dangerously close to 95 degrees. They are actively freezing themselves to death just to remain completely invisible to the unblinking thermal optics overhead. While the body physically freezes, the local microfauna begins its relentless silent psychological torture. Imagine a massive swarm of angry red fire ants aggressively marching directly across your severely cracked lips. Imagine a venomous mosquito plunging its proboscis directly into the highly sensitive skin of your right eyelid, injecting anticoagulant saliva. Your brain violently screams at your hands to swat them away. Your central nervous system practically begs for immediate relief, but the sniper remains paralyzed by choice. The U.S. Army Sniper School at Fort Moore deliberately breaks elite candidates using this exact psychological metric. During their notorious stalking phase, merciless instructors scan the training field with high-powered loop-hole spotting scopes. One microscopic flinch, one desperate scratch of the nose, or a single millimeter of unnatural movement, and you are instantly disqualified. In one legendary class, 46 highly qualified candidates started the grueling 7-week course. Only 4 men walked across the graduation stage. The 91% washout rate is a brutal testament to the fact that athletic physical fitness is entirely secondary. Stalking requires a terrifyingly high tolerance for agonizing, sustained discomfort. And then, after 71 hours of sensory deprivation, biological freezing, and internal psychological warfare, the high-value target finally emerges from the compound. The exhausted spotter softly calls out the final windage and elevation adjustments, but the brilliant $899 Kestrel 5700 Elite Ballistic Computer cannot physically pull the trigger. The $12,000 2010 enhanced sniper rifle, chambered in the devastating .300 Winchester Magnum, is a masterpiece of modern titanium and aircraft-grade aluminum. Yet it is utterly useless if the human holding it is shaking violently from severe clinical hypothermia. The shooter must now perform a documented physiological miracle. Through sheer, unadulterated willpower, he brutally overrides the violent shivering. He forces his vagus nerve to intentionally trigger bradycardia, artificially dropping his racing heart rate down to a glacial 45 beats per minute. He times his shallow breathing perfectly, waiting for that precious microsecond of absolute dead stillness nestled completely between 2 slow, heavy heartbeats. He smoothly applies exactly 2.5 pounds of rearward pressure to the trigger. The firing pin violently drops. The 190-grain bullet leaves the suppressed muzzle at 2,985 feet per second. But the true tactical victory was not the kinetic ballistic impact. The victory was the 72 hours of agonizing silent suffering that preceded it. Real military supremacy does not rely on depleted, uranium-encrypted satellite uplinks or titanium alloy chassis. The ultimate weapon system on the modern battlefield is and always will be the unbreakable human nervous system and the relentless iron will of the men who refuse to break. If you respect the brutal, unfiltered reality of military strategy and human endurance, hit the like button and subscribe right now to ensure you never miss our next deep dive into the shadows of modern warfare.